Adrenal fatigue is a condition that develops after a person has undergone chronic stress for a long time. So at first, your body produces a lot of cortisol, your stress hormone, but if it has to do that day in and day out for a long period of time, it kind of gets tapped out and stops producing enough cortisol, and that's what results in adrenal fatigue. So the adrenal gland sits on top of the kidneys, and they have a lot of function even though they're a small gland. They produce cortisol, which is our stress hormone, also our anti-inflammatory hormone. They produce hormones that control our salt levels in our body, and they also produce like precursors for our sex hormones, and they produce epinephrine and norepinephrine, so our adrenaline hormones as well. Normally, when a person is under eustress stress, meaning they're not high stress, they're not low stress, they're just in a nice balance in their life, they should be producing a high amount of cortisol in the morning, which wakes us up and gets us ready for the day, and then taper through the night as the day goes on. If you have a stressful event in your life, then you should produce more cortisol and some adrenaline so that you can complete that task. In the fast-paced world we live in today, sometimes people are producing too much cortisol and adrenaline, which eventually leads to that adrenal fatigue. Fatigue is the hallmark symptom. Really poor energy when you get up, a crashed late afternoon. Maybe food energizes you, and that's just because it gets your blood sugar spiked, so you finally have something to fuel you throughout the day. And then some people, if they have an inappropriate release of cortisol at night, they could have issues falling or staying asleep. But fatigue is primarily the hallmark symptom of adrenal fatigue. Poor exercise tolerance, poor wound healing even, poor immune function in general can all be a downstream effect of that adrenal fatigue. Brain fog can certainly be a side effect of adrenal fatigue. For women, low testosterone status. They're not going to be producing that testosterone, and that's our only source is from the adrenal gland, so they need to be healthy for that to function appropriately. So if you're going to be fatigued, everything is going to be off in your day-to-day life. People with profound adrenal fatigue feel like they can't even do the daily activities that they need to get the things done, like clean their house or take their kids to soccer practice. It's just everything is just downstream. They're worn out, and they might sleep a lot even, and they're still tapped out, and that's where intervention needs to happen to get that healed up. You need to aggressively kind of heal the adrenal glands for them so that they can function like they're supposed to again. And once you correct that, their life is going to be turned around because they're going to finally have energy to just complete those activities of daily living again. It's with cortisol. Now you can use cortisol testing in a few ways. Blood draws, that's a one-spot shot. What I like to see is a cortisol curve, meaning we get that cortisol level in the morning, noon, late afternoon, and then late at night. The best way to test that is through saliva, and that's looking at that free cortisol, the one that's circulating around. You don't want to have to do 4 blood draws on a person during a day. So saliva is the least invasive but still diagnostic way to get a cortisol curve adrenal picture for a person. The physician should be able to tell them what their cortisol curve means, and also explain it to how they've been feeling. Like, oh, that afternoon crash you get, yeah, I see it here, your cortisol dips. That problem falling asleep you have at night, well, of course, your cortisol's spiking at night. So they should be able to relay it in a manner that makes sense to the person. First and foremost, you want to address the nutritional needs of the adrenal glands. That includes proteins. They need their amino acids to make those hormones. Also vitamin C and B vitamins, especially B6, although the other ones can have benefits for the adrenal glands as well. Next, you got to think about herbs. So there are these classification of herbs that are called adaptogens. That means that they modulate. So if something is too high functioning, it can bring it down. If something's too low functioning, it can bring it up. They literally adapt to the situation. Some of them are more stimulating than others, so you can use that in adrenal fatigue to get that boost that the person actually needs to get them healed up and working how they should. And those kind of herbs could be licorice, ashwagandha, ginseng, Panax ginseng specifically, Eleutherococcus is another herb that can be profound. There's many that could have a positive effect for adrenal fatigue. Adrenal glandular extract is honestly what's necessary when there's profound adrenal fatigue. How it works is it's going to kind of give your adrenal glands a break from producing it while you address the vitamin C issue, the B vitamin issue, so that they can heal up themselves. Give them that break for 3 months, maybe even more, depending on how depleted a person is. And then over time, their adrenal glands will be sufficiently healed, start working how they're supposed to again. The first thing that comes to mind is you got to be careful of caffeine. So caffeine stimulates cortisol production. Now we don't want to be stimulating any cortisol production secretion when we're trying to heal these adrenal glands up. So that's definitely step number one, making sure that you're getting a well-rounded diet so that you have those micronutrients that you need in addition to the supplementation from the treatments that we mentioned, like the B vitamins, the vitamin C, that people have it to heal their adrenal glands. Minimize that sugar, because anytime you're increasing inflammation, it's going to be a depletion on the body and a depletion on its reserves. Their exercise tolerance is going to be poor. That is a hallmark of adrenal fatigue. So it's kind of like with the thyroid, you have to let them be aware that it's going to be a steady process to get their exercise tolerance up to where it should be again. They also might have a little more pain and inflammation at first. They could benefit from those kind of therapies that might decrease that, like hot laser treatments to sore nerves, muscles, hyperbaric oxygen to get oxygenation to the tissues at a more profound level, cryotherapy to help reset extreme inflammation. Those kind of modalities to support them through the process is going to be pretty profound. You know, you could always benefit from IV therapy. If you have a compromised gastrointestinal tract, meaning you have malabsorption issues, you're not maybe going to absorb the supplements or even enough nutrients from your diet, IV is a way to bypass that imperfection. While obviously you want to work on healing that as well, because that can get the nutrients that you need right into the bloodstream so that your body can utilize it right away and not be dependent on that potential malabsorption issue present. As with any medical condition, it's really important to not self-diagnose and self-treat. You have to have a healthcare professional that guides you through this process, and they're gonna have the experience and the knowledge to actually help that person the most. So always important to never self-treat, as it's really the job of the healthcare professional to help you through that.